Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rodney Featherstone. I'm the Head of Commercial at PB Tech. Thank you for joining me for the video of the PB Tech and the Sophos Cybersecurity panel. It's currently the 28th of September 2022. So if you're watching this in 2032 and think that I'm looking very young and that our content is well out of date, then you're probably right. So Tony joins me today from Sophos Security Architecture, and he is going to introduce himself shortly. But before we do, I just wanted to run through what we're going to be talking about today, share my screen quickly, and tell you why I'm really excited to be part of the session. So I'll just flick on through to this. Hopefully you can see my screen. One of the things that is emerging through the whole IT industry, to be honest, over the last 10 years or so, is the movement from selling licensing or selling hardware to being a subscription model and an as-a-service model. And I was recently, you think of the obvious ones like Adobe. They used to sell their product, now they rent it to you. Microsoft, of course, we all know are going down that way as well with their NCE models. That's just overtaken the CSP model. And I was at a session the other day with Juniper. Now, Juniper make switching and networking and now Wi-Fi, and their product Mist AI is an as-a-service networking and Wi-Fi as a service. And now we're seeing from the folks at Sophos and the whole security industry is moving towards security as a service as well. So one of the things that we're going to come out of today learning about is why security as a service is something that you should consider rather than just purchasing a piece of software or a license or a firewall or a network switch. So all of that management layer is done via the Sophos XOps team. They draw in all of the information that they gain from their labs, from their SecOps management interface, from the AI team that they're writing their software, and their cybersecurity team. So they bring all of that together to deliver management layers and cybersecurity across all of their product set, all of their software and all of their hardware, and it's all managed by their as-a-service team. So next slide here, the last thing before we introduce through to Tony is if you go to pbtech.co.nz and you type in Sophos, you'll get to the Sophos page. On that page, I would really encourage you to make yourself available the security threat reports and the state of ransomware reports that we've got that are uploaded on there. And we're going to keep those current. So anytime that you're in the market and thinking about what you should be doing for your security profile within your business, I'd encourage you to take the first step is to download the reports of where the market is at this time and what are the current threats that are facing the world and facing New Zealand businesses that you need to be aware of. This is very regionalized data. It's not, global, everywhere else in the world and, what's happening in Germany and Ukraine and Russia. This is what's happening right here in New Zealand and Australia. So I'd encourage you to be aware of what's going on and utilize the tools that are available to you on the PB Tech website. So again, if you pop along to pbtech.co.nz, type Sophos and fill in the page there. If you need more information, there's a form down the bottom. You fill it in there and one of our security analysts will be in touch with you. So without further ado, I'll introduce you through to Tony, who can tell us a little bit about who he is and what we're going to come out of today with, and then we'll get on with the session. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rodney. Again, I'm Tony Cosma. I work for Sophos as a technical sales consultant. I'm across pretty much everything that Sophos does, and trust me, we do quite a lot. I've been in the IT industry probably for close to 30 years now, and my background is networking. But for the last 10 years, I moved into more security-focused jobs. And eventually, 3 years ago, actually, I started working for Sophos. I've done quite a lot in this space. I moved from quite level 1 jobs to what probably we call today a security architect. I'm really passionate about this cybersecurity space, and the whole idea of even today's session is about the complexity that actually it brings today and all the challenges that we face. So with that, maybe I can share my screen, Rodney, and then we can go from there.
That'd be great, Tony. Why don't you pop up an agenda and sort of go through the first things that we'll work through, and then we can jump on through and start talking through the details.
That is a good plan. Just bear with me, sharing the screen now, and it should be coming across right now.
That's great.
Now, look, this is probably too much to call it an agenda. What I wanted to, because I want to make this a very interactive session, a dialogue within us and eventually the customers and partners that are going to watch this recording. But I just want to put a structure in place that, the topics I'm going to go today, eventually the focus is going to be the cybersecurity as a service and what does it really mean? Because like you said, Rodney, not many people have seen this. What do you mean cybersecurity as a service? We've seen so many other things as a service, but what does it really mean? Hopefully by the end of this recording, it's gonna, be a better understanding for everyone watching this. So starting at the top, the one thing I want to do is to go to the threat landscape, and I'm a big fan of understanding the enemy. You need to be able to defend against something. You need to know what you fight against. Of course, from the security perspective and the security governance perspective, you always start with understanding your values, your assets. But once you understand that, you start building processes around that. Now, understanding the enemy is probably very important to know what you fight against, so you know how to build those defenses and eventually measure them, map them, and improve them over time. Now, when it comes to start building your own security program, I just want to go through some ideas and what would be the the focus when you start building a program and focused around cybersecurity, and eventually I'd like to move into how Sophos does it. What's unique about us? How are we actually changing the game when it comes to cybersecurity? And last but not least, in a very high level, as the interest of time probably is not going to allow us to go quite deep, but I like to, for everyone to understand what is really cybersecurity as a service and how Sophos does it. Okay, look, Rodney, you've mentioned some of the reports that everyone can find on the links on the PBTech website. This is going to be some high-level information from those reports. I really encourage everyone watching this video to actually go back to the recording notes and actually download these reports. And that was spot on, Rodney. You've mentioned that it's quite an easy way to just go back to various departments of any business and discuss, the challenges, and maybe put up a plan that really allows everyone to build better security solutions. And to actually add one more note on those reports, they're quite highly, the way we make them is quite executive format. So to be honest, anyone, even without technical knowledge, can understand them.
Tony, I know that many reports that I have from security vendors, it's like listening to the insurance salesman, to be honest. It's talking about, oh, the world is falling, the world is falling. And you need to spend $1 bazillion because if you don't, then you're going to get ransomware attacked, and you sort of get a little bit deafened to that message. Is there anything, I mean, we're now September 2022, is there anything in all reality that's changed dramatically in the last 6 months, 12 months, or is this business as usual around, yes, security is important, yes, you need to do something about it, and yes, there's evil people in the world and there's people that are going to try and steal your money? Is there anything showstopperous that we really need to be aware of without having to go through all these reports, or motivating us to go through these reports?
That's quite an interesting question, and one of the things that makes a bit of difference in the way we build these reports, a lot of this data we collect ourselves. We collect close to 1 million, malware samples a day from across the world, and we run our own threat intelligence, various AI models against the data, just to build better understanding and look at, how is the threat landscape changing? Is it really changing? What's different compared to 2 years ago? And just to point to some of those things, Rodney, is definitely, I think everyone can agree is that we're fighting a more smarter, advanced adversary. And you're going to hear me today talking about adversary quite a lot. So I just want to make sure on the same page when we call adversary, it could be anyone trying to breach you. So any of the bad guys, hackers, who, they do have different names, gangs, and so on. But adversary basically, it's becoming smarter, and it's becoming smarter by leveraging a lot of automation. It's becoming smarter by leveraging similarly to defenders, a lot of AI technology and AI models. But once they actually manage to get in, one thing that is changing the game is they hands-on. They hands-on always making a lot harder for even the most advanced AI technology to actually stop, human behind the keys. So as we move on today to a couple of slides and maybe progress with this dialogue, I'm hoping that we're going to get to the point that we really understand that we can't really defend against an adversary that combines such a smart technology with a very strong skill set, just purely relying on technology. And that's kind of the goal of cybersecurity as a service, and we'll see that in the upcoming slides. One of the other things to your question, Rodney, is we're not fighting one adversary only. Yes, we're fighting more than one, but what they do these days, they collaborate. They basically getting specialized in different areas. Some of them would be good at getting in. So the other ones maybe compromise, endpoint servers and various assets across your infrastructure. The others might be running a ransom and encrypting your files. The others might be exfiltrating. And all of a sudden, you can wake up one day and you hold to ransom, but not just one, a couple. So that's really why I would advise everyone to go through those reports. But part of those reports, there's another link which we call the Active Adversary Playbook. And that is a more technically focused report that really tells the defenders how to build better cybersecurity systems, because it kind of points out what are the techniques that adversary uses today to actually compromise you as a customer.
Excellent.
And coming back to the report, by the way, again, that report is a lot more advanced with a lot more information, but just to point to a couple of things here. One of the interesting facts that as advanced adversary might look like, they're still leveraging in the beginning, quite basic techniques. And we call this living on the land. And living on the land basically points to any native tool that might be on the operating system by default that can be leveraged to compromise further, to obfuscate detection, because they don't need to download anything. They don't need to bring anything into your network. Those tools are there. One of the other things I did mention is combining these automated attacks with human behind the keys. And again, that is the goal here, automating the initial stages of cyber breach. But eventually, once they get in, they know they're going to fight advanced cybersecurity defenses. So they need to get hands behind the keys and try to obfuscate that detection. One of the things we've seen in these reports, and that's something interesting, the dwell time that it takes for from the time they get in and to have a clear indication as defender to actually someone in your network, and this kind of varies between a couple of days with maybe the small SMB, but it can go up to even 3 months, and we've seen probably the largest one around 88 days until they start seeing some clear signs, evidence of adversary in your network. Now, think about this. That's a lot you can do in that amount of time. And last but not least, everyone is talking about, and we've seen this pretty much over the last couple of years, we focus a lot on building defenses, strong defenses, improve our security posture, improve our security systems, invest in our people, and so on. But now we put our trust in others we collaborate with. And this is, something that's driven by improving the way we do business. It's not something we can run away from, but that brings another risk. And we could see this in the last few years, starting from the original SolarWinds attack. And again, look, we're not pointing fingers here. It can happen to anyone. This is not to pointing fingers to any vendor. But that was probably something that most people will point back to as one of the largest cyber breach we've seen through the supply chain attack. And the time frame for that was around, probably the preparation for that was around, months to potentially even beyond the year. That also gives you time to defend against. So if you move to the next one, which was the Hafnium, that moved down to probably around weeks. So all of a sudden the time, the window is shrinking. But I want to point out to the latest one we had last year, which is the Kaseya VSA. In matter of a few minutes, they rolled out ransom and encryption across hundreds of thousands of endpoints across the globe. What is your capability as a defender to defend against that kind of threat? So that's why I strongly encourage everyone to actually follow with these reports. We always release a couple of new ones every year, so stay across these ones. They're really good tools and guidelines on how to improve your cybersecurity defenses. Look, I did mention I'm not going to sit much on the slide. I'm just want to remind everyone, and this, I think Rodney, you've mentioned you can see this in the news pretty much every single day. We definitely look at the overall increased cyber breaches. We could see an increase in complexity. We definitely fight a more smarter adversary, and the impact is more damaging to our value and to our assets. And of course, that can go beyond just destroying your files. It's about business reputation, it's about downtime, it's about so many other things that can increase the true cost.
Tony, are you seeing evidence in the security space of companies, hacker companies being formed that have got divisions, got departments, got strengths, got weaknesses? Because we always consider that to be almost like state-sponsored and very large governments that would be that complex, and then we imagine the little intelligent dude sitting in a dark bedroom somewhere, like trying to get a couple of bucks out of somebody. Are you saying that we're seeing a commoditization of hacking businesses that are getting bigger and bigger and more global and more active, rather than what we all imagine from the movies?
I think that's really spot on. One, it's definitely they starting to work together. They understood as these various gangs that they really specialize in different areas. So they agreed between themselves, why not working together to actually try to monetize, and that's what they've done. So all of a sudden you're fighting a very what we call today an advanced persisting threat that combines multiple gangs together. So it makes it really difficult for us. So it's definitely a challenge for everyone. It's not just for not just for the small businesses. It's everyone is pretty much fighting the same advanced persisting threats that we've seen today. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yep.
Look, so now I think we can all agree we definitely fight an advanced adversary. So how we start building a proper cybersecurity system? What are the areas that we're going to focus on? And we call this the security program objective or the cybersecurity program objective. And that is pretty simple as putting that in crayon. We want to be able to detect attacks on sensitive data, assets, and basically neutralize incidents before they're becoming a breach. So what it really means actually, what do you mean before they're becoming a breach? That means we have an ability to detect early indicator of compromise before they actually too impactful on our assets. And hopefully in the next slides, that's going to become a lot clearer than actually just using this cybersecurity terms. But we will focus on 3 core capabilities: protection, detection, and response. And as much as we like to refocus ourselves to detection and response, and that's really important, that really makes a difference, to be honest. But let's not forget about protection. Good protection stops most of the cyber threats today. And then if we have a really good defenses in place, then of course, when it comes to the time we spend in detection and response, because remember, that is very interactive. Yes, you might automate some of those detection and response tasks, But again, remember, as long as you fight a smart adversary that combines on automation and hands-on keyboard, you need to be hands-on keyboard as well. So these would be the three core capabilities. And with protection, we want to build strong protection and layered security. It's as we want, once someone try to get in, basically to leave enough breadcrumbs behind that really allows us through detection and response, the other two core capabilities, which kind of blends into one, they blend together, and have the ability to detect all those indicators of compromise, detect them really fast, and eventually analyze anything or investigate anything that is suspicious enough and where required to respond to those. And that's really in a nutshell what would be the areas that most companies, most businesses will focus when they start building a cybersecurity program. Okay, so how do we build this program? How do we even know we're doing a good job? And I personally, but not just myself, pretty much the whole cybersecurity community is mapping against what is known the MITRE framework. And I know this slide might be probably a bit too small for people to they can read it. So I'm going to just switch to my website, sorry, to the MITRE website. So actually, it makes a bit more sense. So this is a metrics that MITRE built over the last few good years through real world observations. So, but they not just mapped all these various what they call TTPs, techniques and procedures. They actually mapped against those gangs, those adversary. So you can identify them and group them into various campaigns, and really gives you the ability to understand when you build defenses, when you build good cybersecurity, is that defending against the latest threats? The way you spend and invest into your cybersecurity program, is that effective against what's going on with the threat landscape? So what you can see on the screen is basically the framework. What you see at the top is what we call the technical goals, and it starts from the left-hand side, reconnaissance, and goes through different stages, initial access, execution, and so on. And probably most people or IT professionals will be used to maybe with the cyber kill chain. You can think of this framework as a more zoomed in technical hands-on framework that really allows you to effectively build better defenses. And as a defender, you can actually browse this this framework. You can click on each one of these, look into each different technique, and click on each one. And actually, the MITRE actually gives you a lot of details, and even gives you how you can mitigate that kind of risk. So again, strongly encourage everyone to jump on the MITRE website and start, getting used to actually the MITRE framework. I often call the framework as the universal language of cybersecurity, and it's really important for us as defenders, as business owners, stakeholders, to speak the same language. Just going to switch back to my slides. So, so how do we do it actually at Sophos? Now we know we fight a very advanced enemy. We know we need to build defenses. We know to focus on three different core capabilities. Protection, detection, and response. So, what have we done actually at Sophos to actually improve the way we look at cybersecurity? And we call this the adaptive cybersecurity ecosystem. And the main idea behind this is, as opposed to deploy, point of security solutions, we wanted to provide an ecosystem that actually works together for the greater goal. And there's nothing wrong with really best of breed cybersecurity solutions, but the problem or the challenge with those is when you start, try to, to improve your security posture overall with various, point of security solutions, the challenge is that you leave those gaps in between. We call that the Swiss cheese, because there's kind of holes in between those systems that don't really collaborate with each other. And yes, you might spend quite a lot of time to start integrating them into one, and there's definitely good adoption for that on the market. But still, it is a real challenge. Remember, Rodney, we've discussed this before. With the challenge with security professionals, the shortage we have in the industry, it's hard to find someone to pick up a phone and answer a call and just go through level 1, level 2 support. Not to mention, people with a good skill set that can really allow you to integrate these solutions into one. So the way we did this for long, we had what we call Sophos Central right at the top. We are very cloud centric. We start in the cloud, and that's where you start managing all your products. So anytime you had a product, it will be managed in Central. And of course, you can manage all the products. You can configure all the policies. You can be across all the alerts and reports across all these products in one place. No need to move away from that. Now, at this point in time, this is still what we call security management. And given the challenges and advanced threats that we fight today, definitely we need to shift our attention from being reactive, what we call security management, to be proactive, security operation. And that's basically when we, a couple of years back, we've added a data lake and EDR and XDR technologies that really allows you as a security team to shift your attention to, detect those indicators of compromise early on. As we've spoke about, we can identify those, you can investigate, and eventually to respond. And the beauty is that is in the same place, that Sophos Central single pane of glass management that provides this under one umbrella. But there is one more unique capability of this adaptive cybersecurity system. Anytime you deploy a product from Sophos, you can start with an endpoint and add the firewall, add the switch, access point, and so on. That will work with the rest of the system. And we call this the synchronized security. And synchronized security leverages the security heartbeat that where at any point in time, the whole system is aware of any endpoints and servers health status that can be leveraged eventually to, create zero-touch incident response, to isolate compromised endpoints, to respond to those in time, stopping lateral movement, and so on. But with the addition of the data lake, what we've done is basically now we can hydrate, we can push all these events, all these detections into the data lake, coming from not just your endpoints and servers, but basically from any other product you manage in this ecosystem. So all of a sudden, you have full visibility across your endpoints and servers and all those detections, but now you have firewalls, you have IoTs, you have email security, you have all the others. And of course, we underpin all this, data by the threat intelligence produced by, like you call it, the Sophos XOps in the beginning, that brings together the, artificial intelligence group, the Sophos labs, and the security operations center. And now,
I noticed there, Tony, that you're talking about Sophos for your wireless and your access points and your switching. And I get what you're saying, just in terms of the security profile of that. If your switches are talking through to your cloud, and it gets through to the data lake, and you can block ports and all that kind of stuff, it seems all very good. But a switch is not necessarily a switch. Wi-Fi is not necessarily Wi-Fi. Apples for apples. So different Wi-Fi vendors have different capabilities around warehousing and office space and education and all those kinds of things. Where does Sophos see its sweet spot in terms of using the whole platform, and where is its weaknesses? Because in New Zealand, there's not a strong uptake of using all your networking from a security provider. Sophos is known as a security provider with your endpoint protection, your application on your desktop, on your servers, through to your firewalling and your subscription around cloud and management. But it seems to me a big jump to move into your networking, your Wi-Fi around a security provider. Where is that relevant in the New Zealand market, and where is it on paper a good idea?
I think that's spot on. I think there's areas that we not known for, and that's what we're trying to actually, with this whole adaptive cybersecurity ecosystem. We were very close to what would be called today as a full stack cybersecurity provider. We never aimed for to have a full stack, or we never claimed that we're going to provide everything you need for your cybersecurity. But we have most of the products that will be required for most of the customers. And to go back back to your question, I think that these technologies, like you call the switch, the access points, they still actually tend to be pretty standardized around what they provide. They kind of align with the same capabilities. Yes, there might be slight differences between them, but where we provide an additional value with that, as opposed to have those disparate systems managed individually by a cloud controller or wireless controller for your wireless network switches may be managed individually or through a different platform. Again, all this will be linked back into the Sophos Central. And the beauty of this adaptive cybersecurity ecosystem is it's scalable from one man band. If you want to, you can actually have the same security capability as one person or one man band business to the largest enterprise you can think of. And trust me, we do have enterprises even across New Zealand that goes well beyond 10,000 endpoints managed in Sophos Central, but across the globe we do have quite large central environments that goes way beyond 100,000 or a few 100,000 endpoints. So when you build a system that provides equal security to one person as for the hundred few thousand endpoints, that we're really good at. You can be as small as you need to be and still benefit from the same level of security as the largest enterprise, because you'll see once we move away from the adaptive, not away, but we move on and add on top of this cybersecurity ecosystem, is we add the service, we add the human behind the keys, because you can see on the slide here is the top. Yes, you do have Sophos Central, which is it can be self-managed. You do everything in there, but you can open your own security capability with the Sophos managed detection and response service, or Cybersecurity-as-a-Service. That is basically our next topic.
Just before we move on to the next topic, there's a school of thought that suggests that you should have your endpoint application as a different provider for your switching and your firewalling, and a different provider again for your cloud security, so that if one of your providers is missed a threat, then the other two will fix it up. So you talked about the Swiss cheese with the holes in it. Is there an argument for having a few different security vendors in your offering and your protection matrix, or are they all the same, and manageability is key?
Remember, we spoke about the supply chain attacks, and some of them happen to some of the largest cybersecurity providers or IT providers in general. So what we do in that space, we do have a pretty clean, we have a very good, strong security that is available to anyone to be investigated. We make that public. We go through regular testing, and that again can be most of those reports can be available under NDA with any customers and partners that we work with. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a matter of preference. And because I'm coming from the other side, I've been hands-on for most of my life before moving into cybersecurity as a consultant, as a security advisor. we in the past, yeah, we had this like you call it school of thought that let's split the security system, endpoints with one vendor, firewall with other vendors. But back in those days, the threats we were fighting and the cybersecurity wasn't as complex as today. So as we moved on, and again, it's a matter of investigation and understanding and what's the best fit for each organization and individual organization. But the trend is to move to more centralized management, more centralized approach where all this works together as one. So I'll leave that in the capable hands of each individual IT department and security department to decide what's the best way to move on. Definitely we can help out and we can provide more information around what would be the best decision.
Fantastic, thanks.
So we're kind of going back to what we called in the beginning, the cybersecurity as a service. So look, I think by now we can all agree that cybersecurity is an interactive sport. If you want to be building good defenses, if you want to be across what's happening, you need to be involved. It's pretty similar to how you grow a garden, raise a kid, or whatever that is. You need to be there almost every day, if not every day. And it goes the same for cybersecurity. And of course, today that comes with a lot of challenges and comes with a lot of challenges when it comes to IT shortage, with the skill set we need to properly provide this level of cybersecurity that everyone needs, and many others. But the idea is that this is a real challenge for, again, smallest SMB you can think of to the largest enterprise. No one is excluded. And especially if you look at New Zealand space or ANZ space, it is a real challenge even for the largest enterprises that I work with. Pretty much every single question or the very first question in every single session I'm running with my partners is, do you know someone that is actually looking for an IT job? And I think it kind of tells you the story. So definitely it's hard and we short on the right people. So what would be the answer to that? And this is where Sophos decided to move at what we call in cybersecurity as a service that really would focus on providing with less risk, overall risk for your values, for your assets, while really improving the efficiency. But again, you don't want to spend. You're not going to build a SOC. Not many companies today have enough finance to build a SOC, which can be quite an expensive exercise. It goes beyond millions, by the way. So of course you want to do this at a low cost as you would start building your own SOC, and that was the goal of for Sophos to basically provide a cybersecurity as a service that really combines world-leading services, technologies, and that unique part that what makes the difference is the expertise. And expertise, what sometimes they call human behind the keyboards, but of course it goes way beyond human behind the keys, because we put this in a very holistic solution that everything works together to provide you with better outcomes. And the way we do this is basically we start with a SOC, with Security Operations Center that we provided as a service 24/7. And the good news about that is it can be managed by us. We can fully take ownership of any type of incident and respond to your threats 24/7. You can enjoy your afternoons. You can enjoy your weekend barbecues because we will be there for you. It can be managed by you. Now, again, you need to have the right people, enough commitment to provide it 24/7, because trust me, cyber breaches don't stop at 5 o'clock when you go home. Actually, it kind of tends to start after 5 o'clock. So, or it can manage by both. And, as a joint effort by your team and our team, we can work together. And in most cases, this would be an option that some customers prefer, but in other cases, they say, this is your job. You keep me safe, and then let me know what you've done. Anytime you needed to escalate something, anytime you had to respond to something, that was our job, and we of course informed the customer. Now, the difference here is, and now we're truly moving into cybersecurity as a service. Before, one of the challenges for pretty much any company wanting to improve their cybersecurity posture, to improve their cybersecurity defenses was, okay, you need to remove all your products and deploy this product because this product is the greatest. We all know that is a very expensive exercise, even if that new product is way better than what you have. But again, when you're qualifying risks, you understand, you're trying to mitigate that risk, and you kind of decide if ripping off everything and then installing new products is a way to move forward. What we've done, we work with everything you have. It combines, cybersecurity defenses across endpoints, servers, network, cloud, and email, all under one umbrella. And that's what really makes us quite, unique in that space. And of course, we imply all the experts team that we've talked about. You've mentioned that the Sophos XOps, that, the task force that gets unified under the same umbrella with the security operation, with the AI unit, with the Sophos Labs, everything under one umbrella. And kind of going back to that single pane of glass, again, this is managed through that, Sophos Central, an intuitive cloud platform that really allows you to manage everything you have, API integrate into third parties, or connect your third-party security solutions back to Central and manage everything in Central. And that's really, the cybersecurity as a service, where the goal is to basically optimize on prevention, become really better at what we do, preventing cyber breaches, but while actually minimizing the time we need to detect anything and actually respond where required. And of course, as I did mention, and I want to emphasize on this again, is through I like to call this the happy marriage between the AI and the humans behind the keys.
Tony, I've just got a question for you. At the moment, it's very hard to employ people for many reasons. And are you seeing a company size or a company structure that does it well in terms of security versus a smaller business, perhaps, that are employing an IT manager or an IT admin kind of person to do their security that's perhaps not skilled enough to be able to do it as an expert? I've got a few examples in my mind, of course, but we've got a few customers that know that they need security and they don't have the budget to spend 180 grand on an IT security analysis and an expert, so they get their IT administrator to perform that function, and they don't really know whether they're using best practices or not. They don't know whether it's being done well or not. They've got concerns and they've got questions without necessarily having the budget to do it well. Is there a catch-all number that we can throw out there to IT CIOs or IT managers, or even boards and general managers, that says, if you're below 200 seats and you've got a business in New Zealand, you're likely to be at a risk where your staff are not skilled in the appropriate way for the justifiable budget of having them? Is there a sweet spot, or is this is cybersecurity as a service good for everybody? I know your probably answer will be it's good for everybody, but is there a different reality?
No, that's the beauty of it. It's truly available to anyone. And to be honest, this is a small debate we have within our own team. What is the sweet spot for this kind of solution? And yes, we do have some of my colleagues pointing to effectively a number, but I always point to the value you're trying to protect. You can be one-man band operating, some accounting firms or whatever you're managing, and handling millions of dollars. Does it matter you're one-man band? I think it matters. You need that level of protection. And then kind of, moving further back into your question, with the challenges we have to get skilled people today across the ANZ space, it tends to be a problem for every single company, from SMB to large enterprises. It's not really, to be honest, if I would have to point to a size, I would say actually SMB is slightly these days tends to be a bit becoming a bit more specialized and start building some good skill set within the companies. Again, not everyone. It is always about a joint effort between the final customer and their IT provider, because it kind of goes hand in hand. So this is not just on the internal IT shoulders that each business might have or might not have it all, but as a joint effort with the IT provider. Remember, when it comes to that task force within between the customer and provider, we still can add on top of that and provide it to actually that cybersecurity as a service to pretty much anyone.
And what would you say to the GM or the IT manager listening to this video that currently uses PB Tech to manage their security and outsources their security to us? Why would you say to that company that they should be using Sophos to manage it instead of their local IT provider? What's the real sales pitch? Feel free, punch me in the face.
You kindly put me on the spot here, and to be honest, I don't have a full understanding on your security capability, but based on what I've seen on the market, most of the security or this kind of outsourced security, purely security focused services are most of the time focused on some sort of vulnerability scanning and notification. What makes us different to that, and probably even to PB Tech, but correct me if I'm wrong, we do have a 24/7 SOC, large team of various threat hunters, security analysts, malware analysts that work together, and eventually where required provided hands-on keyboard 24/7 that probably, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, you might not be part of the offering that you have today.
Okay, I'll do you a favor, Tony. I'll tell you the answer to that question, and it's very similar to the answer that that PB Tech have got in reverse. At PB Tech, if you were to buy a computer, you would take it out of our factory, you'd put it into our factory, would then autopilot, wrap it up, deliver it to your end user. The old-fashioned way that we compete with our competitors is that they purchase the computer from a distributor, they ship it to either the customer's premises, they send somebody that's expensive out in the car, they flaff around with it, they install it, they spin it up, they deliver it to the end user, and that process has cost them at least $600 or $700 more than it would have if you were PB Tech. So you roll that forward into security space. If you're utilizing PB Tech, yes, we have a help desk. Yes, we have a security analyst. Yes, he's monitoring your security reports 9/5. He's not monitoring them on the weekends. He'll look after them on Monday when he comes back into work, or they come back into work. Because they live in New Zealand, they are more expensive than the Sophos people. There's less of them, and they are more expensive to manage. That in New Zealand, the market is tight, so they are more costly people, and the amount of service that you get is not so commoditized through PB Tech as it would from Sophos. So consequently, it's probably cheaper and better. There you go.
And to be honest, Rodney, we actually do not compete with each other. We can actually work it, together to provide better outcomes for your customers. And yes,
don't get me wrong, I don't mind competing. I just want the best thing for our PB Tech customers, and I think that probably as we've seen with Microsoft, the world is going to security as a service, cybersecurity as a service. So bring it on, and every customer will benefit from that. So if it's okay, I'll share my screen and jump into a little quote, and you can talk me through that quote if that's all right.
Yes, we can actually go ahead and finish
Oh,
this
look at,
whole
oh
thing
yeah. Why don't you
with
finish that? Because you probably just answered my question on this one slide.
yeah, look, well, this is basically my last slide, and I just wanted to give some we call these the SLT, service level targets, and one of the other benefits of security as a service from Sophos, or cybersecurity as a service, is we do not sacrifice effectiveness for time, and that means we do not provide SLAs because when we provide threat hunting and incident response, it's not limited to the number of hours. That is a continuous 24/7 service from day one when you signed up. And so then, okay, so how does an SLT differ to an SLA? And the answer is on the screen. Basically, remember how important is prevention to stop as much as we can. But of course, things getting through and then have all these detections. Basically, we commit to a mean time to detect anything new, less than a minute, with less than 25 minutes mean time to investigate. And where required, where it was suspicious or potentially malicious, of course, by leveraging the assisted SOC and managed endpoint or even unmanaged endpoint, we can then commit to a mean time to respond to that 12 minutes. That really sums up to 38 minutes. And this is a time which we continuously improved ever since day one, almost 3 years ago when we started this service. And this is getting better and better. And if you think about it, 38 minutes, okay, maybe I can do it better. Yes, you might be doing better if you right now look at one detection and might have to do something about it. How about thousands of detections across your network and endpoints? How about hundreds of thousands? How about 24/7? How about where complexity goes way beyond your skill set? And that's kind of how this actually whole SLT makes more sense. And 38 minutes all of a sudden, actually, trust me, in the threat hunting space and an incident response space, it is an amazing time.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Tony. Why don't we just jump through to a quote? I'll share my screen if that's all right, and you can talk me through this because it actually gives some context to whether it's worth it in the New Zealand market. So I've just got a little snip here of a quote that I've done recently for a customer. So we've got the Central Intercept X Advanced, and we've got the XDR Advanced, and then we've got the XDR and the MTR Advanced. So firstly, why don't you talk us through the differences in this pricing? In these product sets.
This actually is good. Okay, so basically, this is pretty much the endpoint lineup. You start from. Remember when we've talked about the core capabilities of the cybersecurity program? Now it's going to actually make more sense. Protection, detection, and response. So the very first one at the top is basically our endpoint security agent that really combines foundational techniques with what we call next generation security. And we put that into one agent. The additional things that we've included into our agent, which, missing with quite a lot of the other vendors in the market, is what I call user control features: peripheral control, application control, data loss prevention, and web control. And that's still part of the agent. So that's still part of the first product. So now we've got protection. Now let's say you want to improve your security posture, you want to adopt a better cybersecurity defenses. Now you want to be able to detect. You have the right tool set to actually look at all those detections, investigate anything suspicious, and eventually respond to that. And that is the next product in your quote, and it is the same agent with XDR. Just to make sure we're on the same page, the agent that we install does not change. It is the same, just gets better capability. So first one at the top, endpoint protection. And next one is the same endpoint protection with XDR capability. That means our endpoints will continuously hydrate the data lake with all sorts of detections, and you can investigate those. But in this case, the catch is you are the one that provides hands-on incident response. Yes, you have the right tools to detect, but you're still the one that provides that incident response and respond to anything that is malicious. With the last option is basically you moved one up, and you have the managed detection and response team, or the SOC provided by Sophos 24/7. And it's the same agent. And the beauty of our MTR, sorry, we call this a managed threat response, but it's basically the managed detection and response service, is you still keep the XDR. And the way we've built our XDR is to allow IT teams to actually operate the XDR toolset and help out in their daily IT and security operation that is not necessarily focused on threat hunting. So all of a sudden you move up to a product and a service that provides a 24/7 peace of mind, 24/7 SOC, but you still own your XDR. You can still run your the XDR toolset to improve your overall security and IT operation posture.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much. So first level is that you've got the endpoint product and it's beavering away, doing nothing, or doing its wonderful thing, but it's not putting it up into your Sophos Management Cloud and analyzing the data and giving you consolidated reports. The second level is it's giving you those consolidated reports and some analysis of what should be done and how it should be done. And then the third level is Sophos is managing that whole thing for you. With a person behind the keyboards, making changes to your system and making sure it's set up best practice and all of those things on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, that's spot on. With just to make sure, even the first option is managed in Central, so that still will be managed in Sophos. That's where the place where you're going to orchestrate all the policies, look at the reports and some alerts will still be part of the Central management.
Cool. So just from this quote point of view, everybody, this is for 3 years, so you can divide that by 3, so that's going to be $160 odd per user per year. So if you had 100 staff and you wanted to outsource your cybersecurity, then you're talking about $16,000 a year for somebody to manage that all for you, including the licensing of your endpoint devices and your XDR and cloud management. So that, it's reasonably cost effective when you think about the alternative of hiring a person. And of course, it's very difficult to hire somebody, especially if you're that 100 user space. How do you interview for somebody that's a cybersecurity expert and actually know that they are? So anyway,
but
that's
one person will be basically a single point of failure. Now you need the second one. And if you want to go beyond 8 hours or 8 to 5, all of a sudden you need a third one. And that becomes so just by looking at 2 people, to be honest, potentially even one, your cost already goes way beyond what you would pay.
Yeah.
And that's still an ongoing cost because you pay wages for anyone, right? It's just one off. So all of a sudden you're getting a good product, an amazing tool set that allows you to improve your overall operation, and then you got the SOC on top of that as a service 24/7. And then in that case, it does not seem to, at least to me, expensive.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much, Tony, for your time today. You've been incredibly valuable to us and to our customers. Appreciate it. We would encourage you to pop along to pbtech.co.nz, type Sophos in the search bar, and you'll go through to the Sophos landing page. All of the links to the information we've shared are there today. And there's also some more information about Sophos and our security offering from PBTech as well. And down the bottom there is a form. We'd love you to fill in the form and you put through to one of PBTech's security experts, and we can give you more information around how to engage with us around that service. So appreciate your time and really loved having you on the call. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Rodney. Likewise.